Hello everyone, this is part 10 of What If Naruto Was the Child of the Moon in Percy Jackson, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Welcome everyone. A college-aged young man with short-cropped sandy blonde hair, blue eyes and a muscular build greeted his visitors. I'm glad you have accepted my invitation to join our cause. He continued. We have not agreed to join yet. A tall man wearing a black coat said. The man's face was ever-changing, like a mirage, but it always seemed to settle with the appearance of a gray-haired man with blue eyes. Yes. Considering you have failed before, how can you assure us of our victory now? This time it was a woman who spoke up. She had green eyes and black hair that barely came down to her shoulders. One could describe her as looking like a Greek statue, pale, beautiful, ageless. She was dressed in white robes covered in silver ornate designs. A smile spread across the sandy-haired teen's face, making the scar on his eye more prominent. That was only a minor misstep on my part. Our Lord still has plans for the future. How can you be so sure? A man that seemed to be dressed as a doorman asked. One glaring feature of this man was the two faces that he had. My lord plans to make the great prophecy his own. The sandy-haired blonde stated. That seemed to pique his spectators' interest. We're listening, said the cloaked man, gesturing for him to continue. We are going to use this. The sandy-haired blonde brought out a vial from his pocket. This venom will be used on the pine tree on that camp. This way, we'll accomplish two things. My lord would be rising sooner than any of them will expect, and another child of the Big Three will be unleashed into this world. You're sure this child of the Big Three will be swayed into joining you? The two-faced man asked. A pained expression could be seen on the sandy-haired teen's face. The gods had allowed her to die, no offense. I am sure she will hold bitterness and contempt in her heart as soon as she is unleashed. None taken. The three in the sandy-haired teen's audience said. Anyway, if that's not enough to convince you, now, the camp isn't the only one with help from the other world, courtesy of our sponsors. The teen explained. Fortunately for us, he is with us right now. Hello everyone, a man with very pale skin spoke. He had golden eyes with slitted pupils, purple markings around his eyes and fang-like teeth. He had pronounced cheekbones and straight waist-length black hair with some locks covering and framing his face or to his shoulders. He was flanked by two boys, one of which was older than the other. The older of the two had onyx eyes and ash-gray hair, which was kept in a ponytail. He wore black-rimmed circular glasses, a dark purple shirt with a high collar, a white undershirt, and dark purple pants with a white cloth waistband. He wore also dark purple fingerless gloves with armored plates on the back of the hand and a blue forehead protector with a single quarter note engraved on a metal plating. The younger lad had black eyes and spiky black hair with a blue tint hung over his face. He wore white long-sleeved shirt kept open at the torso and black arm guards that cover his forearms. He had dark blue pants, over which hangs a blue cloth that covers him from his stomach to his knees secured with a purple rope belt. If I may ask, what is in it for us? The boy with spectacles asked. Well, for starters, power. This caught the attention of the black-haired boy. My lord promises that we will be given power over our enemies once we win. We will have the power to make them suffer. And for some of you here, he continued. Recognition. During the reign of the present deities, you may have all been shoved to the side, unrecognized. In his reign, he promises you to be prominent. And to our guest from the elemental nations, I am sure you have made a deal with my lord already. The sandy-haired boy asked. Yes, his offer was quite intriguing. The pale-skinned man replied. I accept your terms. You have the shinobi of my village at your disposal. A golden sarcophagus glowed behind the sandy-haired boy. And what of our military power? Another teenaged boy in the crowd asked. The odd thing to our newcomers was that he radiated power. All the monsters, even those from far north, are loyal to my lord. Not only that, but his brothers are also rising, albeit at a much faster process than my lord himself. In addition to that, not all the demigods in that camp and those outside are loyal to the Olympians. Some of them are like me, holding grudges and bitterness to the fools in the council. They are loyal to my lord, said the sandy-haired teen. Nods were seen from the audience. We pledge our loyalty to the Titan Lord. The three from earlier declared. Excellent, the sandy-haired teen said. As we speak, the army of our Lord is assembling. They shall be transported in a cruise ship, courtesy of our sponsors, to the new Titan base in California. The sandy-haired teen stood up and held a glass in his hands. I propose a toast to our victory. To Kronos. To Kronos. It was great visiting Annabeth's place. Naruto and Annabeth had a wonderful time. Heck, they even went to DC together. At first, having two powerful half-blood scents attracted a lot of monsters. It was a good thing the blonde was there to take him out. Meeting Annabeth's dad, Frederick was great, even had a man-to-man talk with Naruto. It went a little bit like this. So, what's with you and my daughter? Frederick asked. Wait, what's this all of a sudden? Naruto asked in return, a bit flustered. I can see how close my daughter is with you, stated Annabeth's dad. Naruto took a moment to answer. And you just happen to be in town as Annabeth goes home. Yes. Relax, son, Frederick said. I'm not mad. The blonde sighed in relief. You know what Annabeth is, uncle. You know who might come after us. I know, I guess I should thank you for looking out for my daughter. It's nothing, sir. So, are you sure there's nothing going on between you and her? Naruto struggled for words. Uncle, we're friends. Close friends. That is how their conversation went if I remember correctly, but that's a story for another time. It had only been a few days since they stayed there. A few monsters attacked here and there. We join our favorite blonde doing some last-minute training before bed, and watching over Annabeth's house at the same time. Hey, if you have access to the cage bunchen, why not? Anyway, it was getting late. Fortunately, no monsters attacked today. Did I take them all out already? Naruto said to himself as he stretched. Might as well hit the hay. He made a half-ram seal and disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Naruto entered his room. It was one of the best apartments in the city. It wasn't one of those luxury apartments. He wasn't sure if he would find one those here, but he wasn't picky. So, he took a shower and changed into his pajamas. The next day they were going home, back to their home camp Half-Blood. That night, the blonde had a weird dream, no more like a nightmare. Percy was there too, for some reason. So the dream went like this. Grover, you know Grover, right? Was hauling goat tail, holding his human shoes in his hands the way he does when he needs to move fast. He clocked past the little tourist shops and surfboard rental places. The wind bent the palm trees almost to the ground. Grover was terrified of something behind him. He must have just come from the beach. Wet sand was caked in his fur. He'd escaped from somewhere. He was trying to get away from something. A bone-rattling growl cut through the storm. Behind Grover, at the far end of the block, a shadowy figure loomed. It swatted aside a street lamp, which burst in a shower of sparks. Grover stumbled, whimpering in fear. He muttered to himself, have to get away. Have to warn them. Naruto and Percy couldn't see what was chasing him, but they could hear it muttering and cursing. The ground shook as it got closer. Grover dashed around a street corner and faltered. He'd run into a dead-end courtyard full of shops. No time to back up. The nearest door had been blown open by the storm. The sign above the darkened display window read, Street. Augustan Bridal Boutique. Grover dashed inside. He dove behind a rack of wedding dresses. The monster's shadow passed in front of the shop. Both boys could smell the thing, a weird thing for a dream. Anyway, the scent, no, more like the stench was a sickening combination of wet sheep wool and rotten meat and those weird sour body odor only monsters have, like a skunk that's been living off Mexican food, no offense Mexico. Grover trembled behind the wedding dresses. The monster's shadow passed on. Only silence could be heard, except for the rain. Grover took a deep breath thinking the thing was gone. Then lightning flashed. The entire front of the store exploded, and a monstrous voice bellowed. Mean. And that was about it. Naruto woke up in cold sweat. He wasn't sure what to make of that dream. It seemed a lot too real, like it was happening right before their eyes. Okay, demigod dreams often feel like that, but this time it was different. He had to push that to the back of his mind. After all, he and Annabeth are going home today. The blonde got up and showered. He had some breakfast at some restaurant. Then, he went on his way to pick Annabeth up at her place, after returning the keys to the owner. Naruto would miss this apartment. He had stayed here for a year. Sure, he had gone to school with Annabeth or had gone places with her and stuff, but you get the picture. So here was Naruto knocking at the Chase's residence with a bag slung on his shoulder. The door swung open, revealing Annabeth. The blonde found himself staring at the daughter of Athena. Come in, Naruto. I'm just about done, she said. Did you have breakfast yet? Yep. I had some breakfast before I came here, Naruto said. Naruto smiled and went inside. There was utter chaos inside the house as usual. There were toys lying everywhere, courtesy of Annabeth's stepbrothers. The older blonde found a spot to sit on the couch. I guess it's that time of the year again, huh, Naruto? Annabeth's stepmother asked Naruto. Yeah, it's time to get back to camp, Naruto said. Your stay here was quiet, I presume. Somewhere outside the Chase residence. Little did the Chase family know, there was a hellhound stalking their residence, picking up both of the demigod's scents. There was a small breeze behind the hound. It perked up, picking up a scent of some kind. It looked around only to see the usual trees. The hellhound continued its earlier task. It was getting hungry and impatient. It was about to charge when a blue swirling orb was slammed onto the hound's face. There was blur of orange, and this time a kunai knife was embedded on its gut, making the hellhound crumble into golden dust. A blonde-haired boy reared his hand back. Apparently, he was the one who stabbed the hellhound. He returned the kunai into his holster, and then raised his hand into a half-ram seal. The boy disappeared in a puff of smoke. Back in the Chase residence. Yeah, pretty much, the blonde replied as the memories of the dispelled clone registered in his memories. That's good then, Annabeth's stepmother said. Quote, Mom, you're not giving Naruto a hard time, are you? Annabeth asked as she entered the room. She had a Waterland bag slung over her shoulder and a suitcase at her side. Of course not, dear. We're just talking, her stepmom said. Well then, I guess it's time for you two to go. Both blondes nodded. The younger blonde was surprised when her stepmother wrapped her in a tight hug. Thank you for giving us another chance, Annabeth, she whispered in daughter of Athena's ear. It's nothing, Mom. Annabeth tried to wave it off. No, it means a lot. Just know that you have a home here to return to. I know, Mom. I guess we better get going. Annabeth turned to Naruto. Come on. Let's go say bye to Dad. New York. It had been a year since Naruto and Annabeth had been back here. Their ride back here was uneventful. Being ADHD demigods made it hell for the two of them. Frederick Chase had drove them back to Manhattan, not back to camp, since they were to meet Percy, so they could go back to camp together. During the trip, Annabeth had told Naruto about the weird dreams she had been having lately about camp. Naruto, in turn, told Annabeth about the nightmare he had about Grover. That only worried him even more, worried about their friend and worried about the camp they had called home. So, here we were in the bustling and busy streets of New York. Percy didn't finish school until this afternoon, and it was in the middle of the day. Wanna go check Percy out at school? Naruto asked. What? Why? Annabeth answered with a question. Aren't you curious about what Percy was doing? Naruto challenged. Or do you want to wait for Percy while we do nothing? Annabeth was in thought. Besides, I have a feeling something's going to happen today. Oh, alright. The girl relented. Cool, let's go. MERIWEATHER college prep. Let's sneak in, Naruto suggested. Are you crazy? What if we get caught? Annabeth said. We'll be fine. You got that cap of yours. Naruto waved off her concern. Yeah, but what about you? Annabeth asked. Naruto smirked. Maisugako no Jutsu, Naruto said out loud with a half-ram seal. A moment later, he vanished. Annabeth almost jumped when a finger poked her on the back. Show off, she grumbled, and put on her cap of invisibility. Answer, the two demigods sneaked inside the school. It wasn't hard for Annabeth to follow Naruto even though he was invisible. The older blonde never could resist the urge to prank someone in school. Oh, the evil thoughts that entered the mind of our favorite blonde shinobi. All those pranks he would pull on the campers once they get back. Anyway, they were able to find Percy on the way to gym class. Naruto, the prankster he was, whispered something in his ear. The son of Poseidon whipped his head back trying to find where the voice is. In the corner of his eyes, he saw the lockers shake for a second. Then, someone poked him in the back. The son of Poseidon was about to run out of the room when someone called out to him. This guy who called to him was 6'3" and built like the abominable snowman. His face was kind of misshapen and brutal looking. His voice was deep, but he talked funny, like a much younger kid. "What's up, Tyson?" Percy said. "Well, the now named Tyson tried to ask Percy a favor." The son of Poseidon knew immediately what the big guy was asking him to do. "Oh, yeah, sure, man." Tyson ducked inside the weight room. Percy stood guard outside the door while he changed. He felt kind of awkward doing this. After Percy was done, they made their way to the gym. Naruto's camouflage came undone, revealing him rolling on the floor laughing. Annabeth took off her cap, revealing her looking over Naruto and shaking his head at him. "Will you stop pranking them for 1 minute?" Annabeth scolded. Sorry, I can't help it," Naruto apologized. "Hey Annabeth, what are you doing in here?" "Oh, I see." Annabeth was realizing what the blonde was implying. It's not like that, I didn't know you had it in you." Naruto continued. No. Oh, it's okay. I understand." Annabeth was now blushing really hard. To make things worse, the blonde kept teasing her, so she chased the blonde all over the locker room. The chase ended when Naruto slipped and rolled onto his back. Annabeth wasn't able to control her deceleration and she slipped and landed on top of the older blonde. Their faces were only mere inches from each other. The two stared at each other. Naruto had unconsciously wrapped his hands on Annabeth's waist. They held this position for a few moments. They were only brought back to reality when they heard a loud explosion coming from outside. The two quickly got up, with huge blushes on their faces, but they didn't have time to dwell on what happened. The two reapplied their invisibilities and ran outside to see what happened. At the gym floor, they saw that the exercise mat burning and turned to shreds. "Run!" Percy shouted to the others. The other exit. They ran for the locker room, but with another wave of Joe Bob's hand, that door also slammed shut. "No one leaves unless you're out," a giant roared. "And you're not out until we eat you." The giant who shouted launched his own fireball. Percy's teammates scattered. The odd thing was the fireball ricocheted over something nobody could see and went back to the giant who threw it, making him dive to avoid it. He growled in anger. Percy reached for Riptide, which I always kept in my pocket, but then he realized that he was wearing gym shorts. Those shorts had no pockets. Another fireball came streaking toward Percy from the other giants. The big guy, Tyson, pushed him out of the way, but the explosion still blew him head over heels. The son of Poseidon found himself sprawled on the gym floor, dazed from smoke. His tie-dyed t-shirt was peppered with sizzling holes. Just across the center line, two hungry giants were glaring down at him. "Flesh!" they bellowed. "Hero flesh for lunch." They both took aim. "Percy needs help," Tyson yelled, and he jumped in front of Percy just as they threw their balls. "Tyson!" Percy screamed, worrying for the worst. Both balls slammed into the big guy, but he wasn't pushed back. Somehow, he caught the fireballs. He threw it back at the giants. "Bard!" The giants screamed as the fireball exploded in their chest. The giants disintegrated in twin columns of flame. "My brothers!" The giant that seemed to be the leader wailed. He flexed his muscles and his baby cake's tattoo rippled. "You will pay for the destruction." "Tyson!" Percy warned. "Look out." Another comet hurtled toward the two. Tyson just had time to swat term aside. It flew straight to the really old coach sitting on the side of the room, but some unseen force sent it back to the cannibal giant. He was able to dive out of the way again, so it exploded right beside him with a huge kaboom. Kids were running around screaming, trying to avoid the sizzling craters in the floor. Others were banging on the door, calling for help. One kid stood petrified in the middle of the court, watching in disbelief as balls of death flew around him. The ancient artifact of a coach still wasn't seeing anything. He tapped his hearing aid like the explosions were giving him interference, but he kept his eyes on his magazine. "Victory will be ours," roared the giant leader. "We will feast on your bones." Percy thought about his next move. He also thought of possible retorts for the Giant King, but he resisted the urge to do so. The three remaining giants postured, hefting their fireballs ready to throw another volley. It was then that a crazy idea ran through Percy's mind. He ran towards the locker room. "Move," he ordered his teammates. "Away from the door." There were explosions behind the son of Poseidon. Apparently, Tyson had batted two of the fireballs back towards the owners, blasting them to ashes. Now there were only two giants remaining. A third ball hurtled straight at Percy. He forced myself to wait for the perfect moment, then dove aside as the fiery sphere demolished the locker room door. The pent-up pressure in the locker room caused a large explosion that blew apart the walls. Locker doors, socks, athletic supporters, and other various nasty personal belongings rained all over the gym. Percy turned just in time to see Tyson punch the lackey in the face. The giant crumpled, but the giant leader had wisely held onto his own ball, waiting for an opportunity. He threw just as Tyson was about to face him. The ball almost caught Tyson in the chest, except another invisible force kicked it back to the owner. The giant slid the length of the court and slammed into the wall, which cracked and partially crumbled on top of him. Tyson uncovered his eyes. He saw two blondes suddenly appear and stab the giant, making burst into a column of green flames. Standing triumphantly in the smoke were Annabeth and Naruto. Percy figured Naruto was the one who kicked back the fireballs, but it didn't make sense since his clothes should have been scorched. The kid, who'd been standing in the middle of the court dumbfounded the whole time, finally came to his senses. He blinked at the two blondes, as if he dimly recognized the two. From the picture. Annabeth punched him in the nose and knocked him flat. Shut up, brat. The gym was in flames. Kids were still running around screaming. There were sirens wailing in the distance, and a garbled voice over at the intercom. Through the glass windows of the exit doors, the headmaster was wrestling with the lock, a crowd of teachers piling up behind him. Annabeth, Naruto, Percy stammered. How long have you? Just before gym class. Naruto answered. You should see the faces of your schoolmates. Naruto was trying to stifle his laughter. Annabeth sighed. Although, she had to admit she was tempted to do the same pranks. She just had more self-control than the older blonde. You followed us all the way here? Percy asked. Even in the locker room. The daughter of Athena was red all over the face again. Naruto patted her on the head. Then, he moved to whisper something in Percy's ear. She's a closet. Annabeth punched the older blonde on the arm, not letting him finish. Naruto just snickered, massaging the punched area. There's no time for that. She snapped, the blush on her face still evident. I didn't. It's almost open, a woman screamed. The maintenance man was trying to open the doors and was close to getting it done. Naruto picked up a rock and placed it beside the kid, and then raised his right hand to his chest in a half-ram seal. In a puff of smoke, the rocks turned into some firecrackers. Meet us outside, Annabeth told Percy while they watched Naruto. What? Was Percy's smart answer. No time, Naruto said as he set up a genjutsu for the teachers. Get your gear. Don't worry about the mess. After that, the blondes disappeared. Outside the school, Annabeth and Naruto were waiting for Percy in an alley down Church Street. Naruto pulled the big guy and Percy off the sidewalk just as a fire truck screamed past, heading for Merriweather Prep. Where'd you find him? Annabeth asked distastefully, pointing at the big guy. He's my friend, Percy said. What's his name? Naruto asked. His name's Tyson. The son of Poseidon answered. Is he homeless? Annabeth asked. What does that have to do with anything? He can hear you, you know. Why don't you ask him? Percy said. The daughter of Athena looked surprised. He can talk. I talk, Tyson admitted. You are pretty. Ah, gross. Annabeth stepped away from him. Ah, come on, Annabeth, Naruto said. He's right, Databio. That's not the point, was the girl's reply. Percy glared at Annabeth for being rude to Tyson, then he examined Tyson's hands. Tyson, he said in disbelief. Your hands aren't even burned. Of course not, Annabeth muttered. I'm surprised the Laestrygonians had the guts to attack you with him around. Yeah, he's a brave little one for his age, Naruto added. Percy looked at his friends oddly, and Tyson seemed fascinated by both blondes' hair. He tried to touch them, but Annabeth smacked his one hand away. You like it, buddy? Naruto asked. Tyson nodded, the fascination still in his face. What are you talking about? Laestry what? Percy asked. Laestrygonians. The monsters in the gym. They're a race of giant cannibals who live in the far north. Odysseus ran into them once, but I've never seen them as far south as New York before. Annabeth explained. Laestry, Percy struggled. I can't even say that. What would you call them in English? She thought about it for a moment. Canadians, she decided. Now come on, we have to get out of here. The police'll be after me. Percy stated. No, I got that covered. Naruto waved off his concern. Then that's not our problem now, she said. Have you been having the dreams? The dreams? About Grover? Percy clarified. Naruto perked up. You had dreams about Grover too? Yeah. Wonder what that's about. Percy said. I thought you were just part of the dream. Naruto commented. Her eyes looked stormy as he watched the two boys discuss their similar dreams. Her mind was racing a million miles an hour. Camp, Annabeth said at last. Big trouble at camp. Naruto nodded. My mom was saying the same thing. But what kind of trouble? Percy said. I don't know exactly. Something's wrong. We have to get there right away. Have you had a lot of attacks? Percy shook his head. None all year, until today. None. But how? Her eyes drifted to Tyson. Oh. What do you mean, oh? Tyson raised his hand like he was still in class. Canadians in the gym called Percy something, son of the sea god. The three exchanged looks. Big guy, Percy decided to explain, you ever hear those old stories about the Greek gods? Like Zeus, Poseidon, Athena? Yes, Tyson said. Well, those gods are still alive. They kind of follow Western civilization around, living in the strongest countries, so like now they're in the US. And sometimes they have kids with mortals. Kids called half-bloods. Yes, Tyson said, like he was still waiting for Percy to get to the point. Well, Annabeth, Naruto and I are half-bloods, he explained. We're like heroes in training. And whenever monsters pick up our scent, they attack us. That's what those giants were in the gym. Monsters. Yes. Percy stared at him. He didn't seem surprised or confused by what he told him, which surprised and confused him. So, you believe me? Tyson nodded. But you are son of the sea god. Yes, he is, big guy. Naruto answered for him. Tyson frowned. Now he looked confused. But then. We don't have time for this, Annabeth said. She was still worried about camp. We'll talk in the taxi. A taxi all the way to camp. Percy said. You know how much money. Trust me, she declared. Percy hesitated. What about Tyson? We can't just leave him here, the son of Poseidon decided. Yeah. Annabeth looked grim. We definitely need to take him. Now come on. Percy didn't look happy at how Annabeth was acting towards the big guy. Naruto and Percy followed her down the alley. Together the four of them sneaked through the side streets of downtown while a huge column of smoke billowed up behind them from my school gymnasium. Here. Annabeth stopped them on the corner of Thomas and Trimble. She fished around in her backpack. I hope I have one left. Here you go, Annabeth. Naruto tossed a coin to Annabeth. It wasn't an ordinary coin. It had Zeus's likeness stamped on one side and the Empire State Building on the other. It was a drachma. You know taxis won't take that, right, Naruto? Percy said. Just watch Percy. Naruto said. Stethi, she shouted in ancient Greek. O Hama Diaboles. Naruto and Percy automatically translated that. She said, stop, chariot of damnation. Annabeth threw the coin into the street, but instead of clattering on the asphalt, the drachma sank right through and disappeared. A coin was thrown towards a spot in the ground. This was no ordinary coin. It was a coin that bore the likeness of Zeus on one side and the Empire State Building stamped on the other. It was a golden drachma. The drachma hit the ground, but instead of clattering on the asphalt, the drachma sank right through and disappeared. At first, nothing happened. Then, just where the coin had fallen, the asphalt darkened. It melted into a rectangular pool about the size of a parking space, bubbling red liquid like blood. Then a car erupted from the ooze. It was a taxi. But it was not just any ordinary taxi. Well, for starters, it wasn't yellow in color. It was smoky gray. Secondly, it wasn't solid. The vehicle looked like it was woven out of smoke, like you could walk right through it. Finally, there were words printed on the door, Grey Sisters. Our dyslexic demigods couldn't quite read that last one. The passenger window rolled down, and an old woman stuck her head out. She had a mop of grizzled hair covering her eyes, and she spoke in a weird mumbling way, like she'd just had a shot of Novocaine. Passage, she asked the group. For to Camp Half-Blood, Annabeth answered. She opened the cab's back door and waved at her companions to get in, like this was all completely normal. Ark, the old woman screeched. We don't take his kind. She pointed a bony finger at Tyson. Naruto sighed out loud. I'll give you more drachma when we get there. Done. The woman screamed. The four squeezed into the back of the taxi, which surprisingly grew to accommodate them. The interior was also smoky gray. The seat was cracked and lumpy, no different than most taxis. There was no plexiglass screen separating the passengers from the old ladies driving. Wait a minute, did I just say old ladies, as in plural? There were really 3 of them. They were crammed in the front seat, each with stringy hair covering her eyes, bony hands, and a charcoal-colored sackcloth dress. The one driving said, "Long Island. Out of metro fare bonus." She floored the accelerator, and the 4 demigods' heads slammed against the backrest. A pre-recorded voice came on over the speaker. "Hi, this is Ganymede, cupbearer to Zeus, and when I'm out buying wine for the Lord of the Skies, I always buckle up." Naruto was about to do so, but he noticed the seatbelts were chains. He decided to use chakra to stick on the seats instead. The cab sped around the corner of West Broadway, and the gray lady sitting in the middle screeched, "Look out. Go left." "Well, if you'd give me the eye, Tempest, I could see that." The driver complained. The driver swerved to avoid an oncoming delivery truck, ran over the curb with a jaw-rattling thump, and flew into the next block. "Wasp," the third lady said to the driver. "Give me the girl's coin. I want to bite it." "You bit it last time, Anger," said the driver, whose name must have been Wasp. "It's my turn." "Is not," yelled the one called Anger. The middle one, Tempest, screamed, "Red light. Brake," yelled Anger. Instead, Wasp floored the accelerator and rode up on the curb, screeching around another corner, and knocking over a newspaper box. "Excuse me," Percy said after getting over the G-force. "But can you, see?" "No," screamed Wasp from behind the wheel. "No," screamed Tempest from the middle. "Of course," screamed Anger by the shotgun window. Percy looked at Annabeth. "They're blind." "Not completely," Annabeth explained. "They have an eye." "One eye. Yeah. Each." "No. One eye total." "Hope that doesn't affect the trip," Naruto commented. Tyson groaned and grabbed the seat. "Not feeling so good." "Oh, man," Percy said. "Hang in there, big guy. Anybody got a garbage bag or something?" "Nope. Sorry, Percy," Naruto answered. "Oh, let's hope Tyson lasts." "Is it that bad?" "You don't wanna know." Percy left it at that. The Grey sisters were still squabbling. Percy gave Annabeth a look that said, "Why did you do this to me?" but she was too busy hanging on for dear life. "Don't blame Annabeth," Naruto said. "If this is the fastest way to camp, then we had no choice. We've had famous people in this cab." Anger exclaimed. "Jason. You remember him?" "Don't remind me," Wasp wailed. "And we didn't have a cab back then, you old bat. That was 3,000 years ago. Give me the tooth." Anger tried to grab at Wasp's mouth, but Wasp swatted her hand away. "Only if Tempest gives me the eye." "No," Tempest screeched. "You had it yesterday." "But I'm driving, you old hag." "Excuses. Turn." "That was your turn." Wasp swerved hard onto Delancey Street, squishing Percy between Tyson and the door. She punched the gas and the cab shot up the Williamsburg Bridge at 70 miles an hour. The 3 sisters were fighting for real now, slapping each other as Anger tried to grab at Wasp's face and Wasp tried to grab at Tempest's. The demigods could now see their faces now. None of the sisters had any teeth except for Wasp, who had one mossy yellow incisor. Instead of eyes, they just had closed, sunken eyelids, except for Anger, who had one bloodshot green eye that stared at everything hungrily, as if it couldn't get enough of anything it saw. Finally Anger, who had the advantage of sight, managed to yank the tooth out of her sister Wasp's mouth. This made Wasp so mad she swerved toward the edge of the Williamsburg Bridge, yelling, "I've it back. I've it back." Tyson groaned and clutched his stomach. If anybody's interested," Percy spoke up, "we're going to die." "Don't worry," Annabeth tried to calm her friends, but she's sounding pretty worried herself. "The Grey sisters know what they're doing. They're really very wise." "That's reassuring," Naruto commented, not really reassured by Annabeth's words. They were now skimming along the edge of a bridge 130 feet above the East River. "Yes, wise." Anger grinned in the rearview mirror, showing off her newly acquired tooth. "We know things. Every street in Manhattan." Wasp bragged, still hitting her sister. "The capital of Nepal. The location you seek," Tempest told the son of Poseidon. Immediately her sisters pummeled her from both sides, screaming, "Be quiet. Be quiet." He didn't even ask yet. "What?" Percy said. "What location?" I'm not seeking any. Nothing. Tempest said. You're right, boy. It's nothing. Tell me. Percy was getting even more curious. No. They all screamed. The last time we told, it was horrible. Tempest said. I tossed in a lake. Anger agreed. Years to find it again. Wasp moaned. And speaking of that, give it back. No. Yelled Anger. Wasp yelled. Gimme. She whacked her sister, Anger, on the back. There was a sickening pop and something flew out of Anger's face. Anger fumbled for it, trying to catch it, but she only managed to bat it with the back of her hand. The slimy green orb sailed over her shoulder, into the backseat, and straight into Percy's lap. Percy jumped so hard that he hit his head on the ceiling and the eyeball rolled away. I can't see. All three sisters yelled. Give me the eye. Wasp wailed. Give her the eye. Annabeth screamed. I don't have it anymore. Percy screamed back. It's by your foot. Naruto pointed out. That's gross. Percy declared. I'm not picking that up. The taxi slammed against the guardrail and skidded along with a horrible grinding noise. The whole car shuddered, billowing grey smoke as if it were about to dissolve from the strain. Going to be sick, Tyson warned. Can anybody lend Tyson a backpack? Percy asked. Are you crazy? Get the eye. Annabeth ordered. Wasp yanked the wheel, and the taxi swerved away from the rail. The taxi hurtled down the bridge toward Brooklyn, going faster than any human taxi. The Grey sisters screeched and pummeled each other and cried out for their eye. At last, Percy steeled his nerves. He ripped off a chunk of his shirt, which didn't really matter cause it was already falling apart in the first place. He used the chunk of cloth to pick the eyeball off the floor. Nice boy, Anger cried, as if she somehow knew Percy had her missing peeper. Give it back. Not until you explain, Percy told her. What were you talking about? The location I seek. No time. Tempest cried. Accelerating. Outside the window, trees and cars and whole neighborhoods were now zipping by in a gray blur. The taxi was already out of Brooklyn, heading through the middle of Long Island. Percy, Annabeth warned, they can't find our destination without the eye. We'll just keep accelerating until we break into a million pieces. It is going to affect the trip. Naruto yelled in worry. Oh gods, why did they only get one eye? First they have to tell me, Percy said. Or I'll open the window and throw the eye into oncoming traffic. No. The Grey sisters wailed. Too dangerous. I'm rolling down the window. Wait. The Grey sisters screamed. 30, 31, 75, 12. What do you mean? Percy inquired, not understanding what the Grey sisters yelled at him. That makes no sense. 30, 31, 75, 12. Anger wailed. That's all we can tell you. Now give us the eye. Almost to camp. They were now off the highway, zipping through the countryside of northern Long Island. Half-Blood Hill was already within sight. They could see the giant pine tree at the crest, Talia's tree, which contained the life force of a fallen hero. Percy, Annabeth ordered with more urgency. Give them the eye now. Percy decided not to argue. He threw the eye into Wasp's lap. The old lady snatched it up, pushed it into her eye socket like somebody putting in a contact lens, and blinked. Whoa. She slammed on the brakes. The taxi spun 4 or 5 times in a cloud of smoke. The funny thing was Percy had somehow flown out of the seat and ended up lying on his friend's lap. He tried to get up was spinning, but with very little luck. He ended up being thrown to the other end of the taxi. The taxi came into an abrupt halt in the middle of the farm road at the base of Half-Blood Hill, causing the passengers to lean forward. Then, when Wasp let go of the brakes, their heads whacked on the headrest of their seats. At that moment, there was a distinct eep from the only girl in the group. Toofed, Percy said out loud. Everyone turned to look at the son of Poseidon. A tick mark was growing on the son of Artemis' forehead. It turns out Percy took a bad timing to try and get up. When Wasp let go of the brakes after the abrupt halt, Percy's head was forced into the chest of Annabeth, who happened to be sitting near the window opposite of Percy's former place. Percy, you can get up any time now, Naruto said, with a crack of knuckles. Percy raised his head. In front of his face was Annabeth's developing womanly assets. He saw Tyson looking forward with a confused look, Naruto was looking at him with a tick mark on his forehead, and Annabeth was holding onto Naruto from the spinning of the taxi and blushing hard. No, it was an accident. Whack. Percy's face got slapped. When we get out of here, Annabeth started, but Tyson's words made her stop. People fighting, Tyson said. Naruto whipped his head forward to see what the big guy was looking at. His eyes widened, and then he said, "We have to go. Now." Annabeth looked at what the two were talking about. "Oh no. Let's go." Half-Blood Hill. It was at this hill where Naruto and Percy fought Pasiphae's son, the half-man, half-bull creature. As if another joke from the fates, this time there were two bulls, but they were not your regular bulls, these ones were made of bronze. Oh. Not enough for you. Well, they breathe fire. As soon as the group exited the taxi, the Grey sisters peeled out, heading back to New York, where life was safer. They didn't even wait for their extra 3 drachma payment, fortunately for her. They just left them on the side of the road. "Oh, man," said Annabeth, looking at the battle raging on the hill. "Well, what do you know? Bulls, again," Naruto commented as he charged onto the scene. One of the heroes shouted, "Border Patrol," to me. It was girl's voice, gruff and familiar. "It's Clarice," Annabeth said. "Come on, we have to help her." Normally, rushing to Clarice's aid was a bad idea. That was quite the understatement, but you get the picture. She would skewer you just for attempting that, but that was the least of their worries. Naruto jumped in front of the border patrol. Most of them were scattering, running in panic as the bulls charged. The blonde went over a few hand signs. "Ninja boy," Clarice asked. "Take the other two," Naruto ordered as he placed his hands on the ground. Doton, Doruheiki. As the bull was nearing the group of demigods, an earthen wall erupted from under the machine, making it rise from the ground. The blonde dashed forward, his limbs coating with earthen armor. When he was under the bull, he kicked it up higher into the air. Another Naruto appeared above with his hand, reared back, ready for a punch covered in earthen armor. Doton, Chokujugan no Jutsu. He shouted again. The punch connected, and the bull's abdomen cracked. The added weight from the jutsu made him sent them quickly back to Earth. A small shockwave could be felt when they landed, and a small crater was dug in their wake. Naruto climbed up carrying the head of the golden bull. The other campers were looking at him. "Oh hey, guys," Naruto said as if nothing happened. "Did I overdo it?" Everybody just stared at him. It was Clarice who broke the silence. "You ruin everything," Clarice yelled at Percy. There were enough bulls for everybody. Percy was too stunned to answer. Annabeth answered for him, "Good to see you too, Clarice." "Ah," Clarice screamed. "Don't ever try saving me again." "Clarice," Annabeth tried to calm her down, "you've got wounded campers." That did the trick. As mean as the daughter of war may be, she still cared about her soldiers under her command. She glared at Percy. "I'll be back," she growled and then trudged off to assess the damage. "Where'd the other bull go?" Annabeth asked. "Don't tell me it." "What other bull?" Naruto asked. "I was busy taking care of one." He turned to point at the crater. "Oh, found it," he quickly added. With a huge stroke of luck, Naruto and the bull he fought landed on the third bull as it charged towards the other campers. "How'd that happen?" Percy asked. Naruto just shrugged. "Anyway, Percy, there were 3 bulls, why'd you pick the one Clarice was fighting?" "Yeah, about that." Percy rubbed the back of his head. "More importantly, Tyson, you're okay." "How?" He changed the subject. "Oh my, you haven't noticed yet?" Naruto asked. Tyson looked down like he was embarrassed. "I am sorry. Came to help. Disobeyed you." "My fault," Annabeth said. "I had no choice. I had to let Tyson cross the boundary line to save you. Otherwise, you would have died." "Let him cross the boundary line?" Percy asked. "But take a good look at him, Naruto suggested. "I mean, take a really good look." Percy took a while as he did. He was having a little trouble at first, but he managed to focus on his nose. His eyes traveled a little higher. The son of Poseidon's eyes widened as he slowly realized. "Tyson," he stammered. "You're a Cyclops." "Bingo," Naruto said. "You've been with him for, what did you say? A year now. And you didn't notice." "Yeah, Percy, and he's a baby, by the looks of him," Annabeth explained. "Probably why he couldn't get past the boundary line as easily as the bulls." "Tyson's one of the homeless orphans." "One of the what?" Percy asked, getting more confused. "They're in almost all the big cities," Annabeth explained further. The distaste could be heard in her voice. "They're mistakes, Percy. Children of nature, spirits and gods. Well, one god in particular, usually, and they don't always come out right. No one wants them. They get tossed aside. They grow up wild on the streets. I don't know how this one found you, but he obviously likes you. We should take him to Chiron, let him decide what to do. He's crafty, I'll give him that, Naruto commented. What? Percy asked. Well, you know about their oath, about not having demigod children. Yeah, he's technically not breaking the oath with Tyson. What are you talking about? Percy asked. More importantly, the fire. How? Annabeth sighed. Haven't you learned anything from Greek mythology, seaweed brain? He's a cyclops, she said as if was remembering an unpleasant memory. They work the forges of the gods, Percy. They have to be immune to fire. Naruto continued for her as he comforted the daughter of Athena who was clearly shaken by her memories. It would be an understatement if you would say that Percy was shocked. But it was a bad time to be dumbfounded. Around them, there were wounded campers and patches of burning grass. And there were the bulls to dispose of. Clarice came back over and wiped the soot off her forehead. Jackson, Uzumaki, if you can stand, get up. We need to carry the wounded back to the big house. Let Tantalus know what's happened. Tantalus? Percy asked. The activities director, Clarice said impatiently. Chiron is the activities director. And where's Argus? He's head of security. He should be here, countered Percy. Clarice made a sour face. Argus got fired. You have been gone too long. Things are changing. But Chiron, he's trained kids to fight monsters for over 3,000 years. He can't just be gone. What happened? That happened, Clarice snapped. She pointed to Talia's tree. Everyone looked at the direction where she was pointing. Now that the fighting had gone down, they noticed the changes from Talia's pine. The pine's needles were now yellow. A huge pile of dead ones littered the base of the tree. In the center of the trunk, 3 feet from the ground, was a puncture mark the size of a bullet hole, oozing green sap. This made Naruto's eyes widen. He ran towards the tree. What's with him? Clarice asked. Percy shrugged. Inside Talia's limbo. The usual background of Talia's life was gone. It was now tinged in a purplish hue. Talia lay in the corner in pain from some kind of illness. Although, our favorite blonde now knows she was poisoned. He walked forward and sat beside the daughter of Zeus. Hey Blondie, the daughter of Zeus struggled to speak. How'd this happen? Naruto asked. I don't know, she winced in pain. Whoever did this was hidden somehow. It must be one of Luke's minions, or maybe, the blonde shinobi said. Don't worry Naruto. I'm tougher than I seem. The blonde smiled. I know, it's just I can't bear to see you like this. Okay, Fox, lend me some power, Naruto said deep within his mindscape. Talia could feel the warmth coming from Naruto. There was a distinct coldness to it, but it was overwhelmed by Naruto's warmth. What are you doing? Talia asked. I was hoping maybe the fox's power could help you. Naruto explained. They sat there for a while, red energy flowing from Naruto's hand into Talia's. The look of pain seemed to go away from the daughter of Zeus' face, but Naruto was panting hard. Feel better? He asked. A little, Talia said. But are you okay? I don't know how long this would last, but I'm glad it's working. Don't worry about me. You need it more. Thank you, Naruto. It's no biggie. I would do anything for a friend. Speaking of your friends, they'll be looking for you. What about you? I'll be fine. I told you I'm tougher than I look. Just go and protect the camp. A sad look washed over her face. I can't quite do that right now. Leave it to me, Naruto said, grin on his face. Camp Half-Blood. Camp was still the same as when Naruto left with Annabeth. The big house was still there with its blue gabled roof and its wraparound porch. The strawberry fields still baked in the sun. The same white columned Greek buildings were scattered around the valley, the amphitheater, the combat arena, the dining pavilion overlooking Long Island Sound. And nestled between the woods and the creek were the same cabins, a crazy assortment of 12 buildings, each representing a different Olympian god. Naruto looked back up at the pine tree. The yellow pine needles were still there. Before, a demigod would feel safe within the borders. Now, there was an air of danger. Anyone could tell something was wrong. Instead of playing volleyball in the sandpit, counselors and satyrs were stockpiling weapons in the tool shed. Dryads were armed with bows and arrows as they talked nervously at the edge of the woods. The forest looked sickly, the grass in the meadow was pale yellow, and the fire marks on Half-Blood Hill stood out like ugly scars. They weren't happy campers anymore. Sorry, I had to get that joke out. Naruto made his way to the big house only to find Chiron with his friends making their way out. So, they fired you, huh, Chiron? Naruto asked, hoping for a different answer. Yes, my boy. Some of the Olympians do not trust me anymore ever since that happened. Chiron answered. Naruto sighed. Now, what will we do when you're gone? I will tell you what I told Percy as well. You must stay here, and train hard. That goes without saying, Chiron. The centaur nodded. Where will you go? I will stay in exile in the Everglades until this matter is resolved, one way or another. I must go. We'll see you later, Chiron. I promise, we'll clear your name. Don't make promises, my boy, especially those you know you can't keep. I never go back on my word, Chiron. That's my ninja way. I promise on my life, no, on the river Styx, that we will find a way to clear your name. Chiron smiled. Thank you, my boy. But I tell you, be careful not to break that promise. With that, Chiron galloped toward the hills and disappeared. No pony. Tyson started bawling as Chiron left. Where'd you go, Naruto? Percy asked. Naruto wasn't sure if he should tell Percy or not, but Annabeth nodded, gesturing him to go ahead and tell him as she wiped the tears from her eyes. I went to, see Talia, Naruto said. How is that possible? Percy asked. She's not dead, Percy. She's just stuck in a limbo. The blonde explained. So when's use? Naruto nodded. You know, Percy asked Annabeth. He told me while we were back at home. Annabeth answered. How'd you take it? I thought he was lying at first. But I felt happy. I had some hope that someday I could see her again. I promised her I would get her out. I just don't know how to start. A conch horn blew. They didn't notice it was already sundown, and their stomachs were grumbling. They all ran to join the others at the dining pavilion. Annabeth went on to join her siblings from the Athena cabin, a dozen boys and girls with blonde hair and gray eyes like hers. The other cabins entered the pavilion's single file lines. Next to the Athena cabin was Clarice and Ares' cabin. Then Charles Beckendorf and the Hephaestus cabin arrived. The other cabins filed in Demeter, Apollo, Aphrodite, and Dionysus. Naiads came up from the canoe lake. Dryads melted out of the trees. From the meadow came a dozen satyrs, which stirred Percy and Naruto's memory of the dream they both had. Finally, there was the Hermes cabin led by Connor and Travis Stoll. The two boys remembered them from their time in the God of Travelers cabin. Percy had gone around telling everyone that it was funny that their last name was Stoll, being the god of thieves' sons, but no one seemed to get the joke, except for Naruto. As soon as the last campers had filed in, the two boys led Tyson into the middle of the pavilion. Conversations faltered. Heads turned. Who invited that? Somebody at the Apollo table murmured. Percy glared in the direction, but he couldn't figure out who'd spoken. From the head table, a familiar voice drawled, well, if it isn't Peter Johnson. My millennium is complete. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.